Welcome to Vitality Made Simple. This is episode 91. This is the podcast that empowers you to feel better, look better, and more fully enjoy the relationships in your life. I'm your host, Dr. Debbie Osment, and I sincerely thank you for joining me. Everybody knows somebody who has cancer. So, we know that cancer can zap vitality. It can impact relationships. So I've been on a quest to bring you interviews with curious people in all areas of vitality, not just cancer. But today is really a podcast of hope. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Al Danenberg. Dr. Danenberg is a fellow dentist, but he's actually a periodontist, and that's someone who's gone to more schooling and has specialized in the treatment of gum disease. Now, Dr. Danenberg has never been afraid to challenge mainstream mentality in any area of his life, and that didn't change when he got some bad news, or so-called bad news. Now, we're not going to talk a lot today about dentistry per se. Dr. Al has a really wonderful story of his journey in dealing with a deadly diagnosis of multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is an incurable bone marrow cancer. So in September of 2018, he was feeling great, super active, learning all kinds of things, doing things at the age of 72, and he was given a surprise diagnosis of 3 months to live. So here's where his curiosity really paid off. So today, we're going to get another perspective on vitality and on dealing with life. So welcome, Dr. Al. Take us from the point when you first got your diagnosis. Tell us how you felt emotionally. I know I've read a lot of your blogs, your books, and I know that I know that relationships are very, very important in your life. So how did you feel when this happened?
Well, in one word, devastated, obviously. The diagnosis was actually in September 2018. And like you said, I was pretty active. I was lecturing and writing books and seeing patients clinically in periodontics and doing quite a bit of things that felt great. I even consider myself a poster boy for senior health and living. And not that I had that title, but I felt really great. And my lifestyle and eating habits were quite healthy until I started getting some pain that never went away, and went to my doctor, who I thought would give me the diagnosis of maybe a pulled ligament, torn ligament, some kind of a muscular issue. And lo and behold, the diagnosis was multiple myeloma, and that's in September 2018.
Wow.
My whole world fell apart instantly in my mind at first, because I never expected a dire diagnosis of 3 to 6 months to live. So my physician discovered it with an MRI, and then my oncologist, who he referred me to, and now is my oncologist, did a whole bunch of other tests and finally came up with a diagnosis. And my wife and two adult children were in the office when I first met the oncologist after he did all the testing and gave me this dire prognosis. Of course, he said that I needed to start chemo the next day. And I said, well, I'm trying to collect my thoughts, right? So obviously, this is a devastating statement, but I already knew that the differential diagnosis was either leukemia, lymphoma, or multiple myeloma before I even saw the oncologist. So I knew we were talking about cancer. So I basically asked him some questions, one of which was, why would I want to do chemo tomorrow when chemo is going to destroy my already damaged immune system, and it's going to give me some side effects that I would not like, and then die for 3 to 6 months later? Why would I even want to do that? And he said, well, chemo would put you in remission, and therefore you would live longer than 3 to 6 months. And so, well, I thought you said this was an incurable cancer. And he said, yes, it is, because the chemo would only work for a short period of time. Then the cancer would come back, and then we would have to go with more cocktails of chemotherapy, more caustic cocktails. And then eventually, none of those would work, and you would die from complications of multiple myeloma. None of this sounded very good to me, right? And
Right.
the only thing that was going through my mind at this point, other than I knew now that I had cancer, was that I felt pretty good in his office, except for some bone pain. I'll tell you about that in a moment. And I knew that the quality of my life was the only important thing that I really could look forward to, not longevity. So I basically told him, George, I'm not interested in longevity. I am only interested in maintaining a quality of life. And I don't think chemo is going to allow me to do that, even if I'm going to live longer. So I explained to him I'm going to do a whole bunch of research and figure out what may be more natural to keep me a healthy guy with incurable multiple myeloma until the end. And he agreed with me, of course, because the prognosis was so bad. So I did some research, quite a bit, and I went through many, many iterations of protocols. I mean, from taking 1 billion supplements, which I don't take now, to understanding a more natural way to heal, at least improve my immune system. The bottom line was I needed to improve my immune system to the point that it could be as robust as possible to fight the cancer and any other infection. It's not going to cure it, but at least keep it under control. In addition, I needed support, and I needed mental support. And my wife, who's an amazingly strong woman, it was there for me. I think anybody that is in a position with a dire prognosis and diagnosis needs to have some form of a support team. It could be a spouse, it could be a friend, it could be a group, but to do it all alone, I think is very, very difficult. And my wife has pulled me out of states of depression more than one time, and she is a very, very much a pillar in my success.
Oh, I
So
think that's so key, Dr. Al, because, we are designed for relationships. And that's the main thing. I mean, that's why you wanted, what I'm hearing you say is that's why you wanted to stay healthy, stay feeling good, is so that you could continue to enjoy your relationships.
exactly, exactly. And the only thing that really matters are making memories. And we've had many, right now I'm almost 76 years old. My wife and I met in the ninth grade, believe
Oh,
it or not. So we've got lots and lots of memories, and we want to continue our life together as best as possible. But it has to be a quality of life. If I'm sitting in a hospice hospital dying, there's no quality there. That's not the way I want to live. So I've done what I've done. It's worked extremely well for me. We can go over the things that I've tried to do. It's nothing esoteric. The idea of looking at different people that have gimmicky contraptions or all kinds of synthetic supplements to take to make you healthy is not natural. I'm wanting to try to make the pathways of my body, the metabolic pathways of my body, as healthy as possible, knowing what I have.
I think you did an excellent job of that in your latest book. This is how I actually found you. It's called Eat as If Your Life Depends on It. Now, I want to tell my listeners this is a very much a how-to manual. Dr. Al does not mince words. He tells you what you need to know. He gives you great information. So this is a 2022 book, Dr. Al. So you started on this mission of research and you started finding what worked for you. I would assume you pretty much shocked the oncologist as you
Yes.
passed a 3-month mark and another 3-month mark and then a year mark. And so tell us about some of these unconventional cancer protocols that you talk about, that you tell us about in your book. And I totally agree, listeners, that these are things that anybody can do. We're in 77 countries, and wherever you are, many of these things every single person can do. So tell us about your top 3 protocols, Dr. Al.
Well, the protocols are based on our species' evolution over time. So if you believe in evolution, the Homo sapien species, which we are part of, has been evolving for at least 300,000 years. Humans, or the human type species, maybe 2.5 million years. So we're talking about millennia of evolution and development to become the dominant animal on this planet. And for us to be the dominant animal on this planet, something must have gone right for a very long time to keep us alive and intelligent enough to create dominance intellectually. And it is our food and our overall ability to metabolize the nutrients in our food to make us successful. You know, there are very, very few examples in the wild of animals with cancer or gum disease or tooth decay or chronic diseases. Most of the animals in the wild are healthy until they die or eaten or fallen off a cliff. Man, for some reason, is a very sick society. There was a study that was published maybe 2 or 3 years ago that showed that 88% of the US population, listen to this number, 88% of the US population is metabolically unhealthy. They are dying chronically. Now, they may not have pain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they're overweight. They have lack of energy. Their bodies are breaking down, and they are dying because of such sickness that they have developed from their lifestyle.
Well,
So
I think excuse me,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm just saying that this is what is the basis of my book. I want to go back to that time frame as to what has made our species healthy, and that's what I want to do for my body.
Well, and I think you probably saw this in your practice. I know I did. I graduated in 85, and the average 60-year-old took one medication. And fast forward even 15 years, and the average 60-year-old was on 3 or 4 things. And our food's changed. It's all changed. So tell us, what would be your top 3?
Sure. So the number one thing is to get nutrient-dense foods that are bioavailable and anti-inflammatory into our system. So if you eat a lot of food that has a lot of nutrients, but it can't get absorbed through our intestines, it's worthless. So you have to have the food, but you have to have the ability to absorb the food so that it can do what it's supposed to do with the numerous metabolic pathways in the body to function, literally feeding every cell to provide its energy to do what that cell was designed to do: a brain cell, a skin cell, a gum tissue cell, all these cells in our body. Bottom line is, an animal-based diet of ruminant animals, meaning red meat animals, basically animals that have 4 stomachs, would be lamb and beef predominantly in the United States. Eating those foods, nose to tail, has actually been the diet of primal man for at least 300,000 years. And this
Nose to
nutrient,
tail. Oh boy.
right. So we're talking about brain all the way down. We're talking about all the organs. We're talking about the bone marrow, the cartilage, blood. I mean, you may or may not like these foods, and you can cook these foods in a delicious way, or you can get some of these foods in a desiccated form. But these are the foods that are the best to give you the minerals and nutrients that your body needs. There is no better vitamin mineral supplement that you can buy for any amount of money than desiccated organs from grass-fed, grass-finished cattle. Amazing stuff.
Did you have to retrain your taste buds for some of that?
Oh, I did like chicken liver all along, so it wasn't a difficult thing.
Maybe.
I don't eat a lot of other organs. I do eat liver. Heart is like eating a steak. But if you don't like the concept, spleen and kidney, I'm not really eating. I do eat thymus gland, which is called sweetbreads. They're delicious. But you can get any and all of these organs from a variety of companies that source their products well in a powder form. And the powder, you can put it in a capsule and you swallow it. You can put it in prepared foods. You can even mix it. I have a recipe for a smoothie that is nothing like a smoothie that you would think of. And it's literally a nutritional drink that has everything your body needs.
I can see it being kind of a different concept for a dinner party. What's on the menu? We're having some
Well, I
thymus
mean,
tonight or some
you
spleen.
know, there are a lot, yeah, but a lot of these things are mixed in. So you can buy ground beef that has kidney and heart and liver already chopped up and in the ground beef. You don't even know that it's there. You can have chopped liver, which is a delicious spread. You can have steaks. You can eat steaks in a variety of different ways. So meat and eggs are available and can be prepared in a variety of ways. You do not have the variation in foods like you have when you go to the supermarket and look at all the junk food aisles and all the different types of foods that they have. But of course, this is processed food with lots of chemicals. This is giving you variety, but it's pretty unhealthy variety.
Right. It's exactly why so many people, 88% are sick. Now you
Yeah.
went ahead and did some immunotherapy, correct?
Yes.
So
So
tell me, you talked about a very interesting study relating the success of immunotherapy to gut health. I was very intrigued and actually looked up some of those studies, and I think our listeners would like to hear about the how gut health impacts any kind of therapy that people do decide to have.
it really is a central element in health, the gut. The gut microbiome, the bacterial garden that we have 38 trillion microbes in our gut for the most part, and only 30 trillion human cells. So we're more microbial than human. And these microbial cells serve many, many purposes. And to get that garden of bacteria out of whack, out of sync, and disproportionately um, um, disproportionate numbers of unhealthy bacteria overgrow, you get disease. So there have been interesting studies, even in some oncology journals, that discuss immunotherapy and why it is or isn't successful. In cancer therapy today, for the most part, they have certain levels of treatment. You have to go through certain treatment before you get to another level of treatment. And a lot of times, immunotherapy is not given right away, it's given after certain chemotherapy. But immunotherapy, when you are a candidate, theoretically, you should get a great result. But only 20 to 30% of patients with
Yeah.
immunotherapy drugs are successful. But this one study that I was reading was explaining that it seems that those individuals that were successful with immunotherapy had a healthy gut microbiome, and the ones that were unsuccessful had a very unhealthy or dysbiotic gut microbiome, meaning overgrowth of lots of bad bacteria that damages the epithelial barrier, that's the lining of the gut, allowing toxic elements to pour into the bloodstream that cause chronic diseases and cancer. So it makes sense if you look at the studies and try to connect the dots that you need to have a healthy gut to have healthy results. Even if you're on chemotherapy, chemotherapy will destroy your gut, but you have to prepare your gut for chemotherapy and repair the gut after chemotherapy. There are certain things that you should and could do.
Absolutely. That's so great. And I appreciated your comments and something I heard about the snacks in the infusion clinic. You were talking about it was, chocolate chip cookies and Cokes. And I think that's what's so important about people like you speaking out. I mean, you have to be informed. You have to be your own health advocate. You have to be intentional. We have to know what we're up against in mainstream cancer therapies. I very much take an integrative view. We take the best of both worlds, but we want it to work. So that's just such a key point to get your gut healthy first. I really appreciate what you say too about you want a long health span. Lifespan's important, but we want this long continuing health span. Speak to us about metabolic flexibility. You talk about that in your book, and you talk about how you cycle on and off of your eating plan just to keep your body metabolically flexible. Tell us, Dr. Al, more.
We are, as a species, we are designed to burn two fuels. One is carbohydrates and one is fat. And we should be able to burn either one when it's available. But preferentially, our body would like to burn ketones or fat, because fat, we have plenty of storage in our body to burn that for energy. And we only have so much carbohydrate. We have to keep infusing our body with carbohydrates. So what I do, and if you're on an animal-based diet, which is my way of eating, would be a high fat, moderate protein, very low carbohydrate diet. So by the low carbohydrates that I eat and the high fats allows my body to go into ketosis. Ketosis means that your liver is utilizing fat and creating ketone bodies. And you're burning fat, you're creating ketones, and ketones are very beneficial for a variety of organ systems, cleaning it out, called autophagy, as well as apoptosis. It does a lot with stimulating your antioxidants like glutathione naturally, not taking it synthetically. And it has been studied in numerous areas for longevity and continuation and reproduction of stem cells. So there are a lot of benefits to being in ketosis. But being in ketosis all the time would not be necessarily natural, because our body needs to also understand and be able to burn carbohydrates. So what I do is, generally, if you look at a 7-day week, I would eat foods that can allow my body to go into ketosis for maybe 5 or 6 days of that 7-day week. And then I eat a number of grams of carbohydrates, and not cookies, but healthy carbohydrates, to the point where my body is thrown out of ketosis and it's burning carbohydrates. My insulin levels go up and it's burning carbohydrates. And then I cycle back to burning fat. Now, I'm allowing my body to do this back and forth because I am not addicted to carbohydrates anymore. I can do that very easily, and that is called metabolic flexibility. And there are many ways to consider doing it, but you have to make sure that you're eating foods that you can say will keep you in ketosis, and then eating other foods that take you out of ketosis. You know you're in ketosis or not with certain tests. The simplest is a breath meter, where you blow into the breath meter. It measures acetone, which is comes off of your blood when you are in ketosis, and it registers the level of that, and it's a very accurate measurement of the ketones in your blood. So at a certain level, I know I'm in ketosis. When it goes to a different level, I know I'm not in ketosis.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So basically, metabolic flexibility is teaching your body to burn fat when fat's available, and then to stop and burn carbs if that's necessary. And so what I'm hearing you say, this decreases excess free radicals, it decreases chronic inflammation. Super interesting. It really just sort of exercises your metabolism, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And there are interesting studies that talk about metabolic flexibility helping to reduce the incidence and prevalence of chronic disease.
Yes. Well, it's really good for insulin sensitivity. To my listeners, you know that I love to talk about insulin, and just keeping insulin more sensitive, avoiding insulin resistance. So metabolic flexibility is totally tied into that.
Yes, it is.
So how are you feeling now? I mean, you seem robust, and what are your plans?
Well, I feel great. My biggest problems to date are my multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of plasma cells. So plasma cells in your bone marrow create antibodies to different infections. So I had COVID, and COVID produced an abundance of antibodies, but they were dysfunctional. And these dysfunctional antibodies don't function the way they're supposed to. That's why the word is dysfunctional. But what they do is destroy some of the internal structure of the bones. And one of the problems with multiple myeloma is weakening of the internal bone structure. And I am prone to pathological bone fractures, meaning that I can twist the wrong way and I'll crack a bone or a rib, which I have been doing recently more than I would like to. So, and bone pain is uncomfortable, to say the least. And I'm a wuss, so I don't like anything that hurts, right?
I don't
So
think you're
that's
wuss.
my big.
I so respect that you're doing what you can. And I think that's so essential with any kind of diagnosis. We're so prone to think it's all or none. You either are healed and back to, before, or you're not. But you have, really made lemonade out of these lemons that you've been dealt. And that's wonderful, Dr. Al.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing all of this with us. I want to encourage our listeners to look at this book if you're interested in this way of eating, or if you know somebody that this could help. Dr. Danenberg's book is called Eat as If Your Life Depends on It. I've read it cover to cover. I think it's helpful wherever you are. I'm not adhering to that eating plan right now, but who knows if I might in the future. But I think this book is so good as a start somewhere. I mean, you're going to find some pearls in this book, because Dr. Al is excellent at saying it's not one thing. It's not just, drink more water, move more. I mean, it's a whole lot of things. It's our whole lifestyle. And in Dr. Al, I'm always coming at this from intelligent design. And so we want to live by how our bodies are designed to function. And I so appreciate the perspective you've given us. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Well, my website is easily accessible. It's drdanenberg.com, which is DRDANENBERG.com. And there's quite a bit of information there that you can read on my blogs and whatever. If someone has a question, there is a comment section where you can actually write in a question. It'll directly email it to me, and I respond to all my emails, by the way. I don't sell anything. I don't sell any products, none of that stuff. But I do offer some coaching, either individual coaching or even a 12-week coaching program to help people with their issues. I do not offer any cure for anything, but I do recommend that my way of eating and lifestyle change will enhance anyone's immune system to become as robust as it possibly can. I'm not ever going to get as healthy as maybe the next guy that's healthy, but I certainly know that no matter where you are with your disease, if you have disease, you can get some improvement. And that's where I am.
Oh, that's good for every single listener, and I so appreciate that. So thank you for being with us today.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, I appreciate everybody listening to Vitality Made Simple. Feeling great does not need to be complicated, expensive, or no fun. We want to fully enjoy the relationships in our life. Please share this podcast. Please subscribe, and blessings until next time.